Welcome. So before I begin, I just want to, last week I showed my new book, A Guide to the Guide, which is a Kitzur Sefer Mer Nevuchim LaRambam, and apparently quite a few people bought it, because on Amazon right now, my book is number 1 in Torah, number 1 in creationism, and number 1 in Jewish theology. And one second. It's number 1 in new releases in Torah, new releases in creationism, and new releases in Jewish theology. On Friday, last Friday, it was number 1 in Torah, number 2 in creationism, and that means all sales, not only new releases, and number 5 in Jewish theology. So Baruch Hashem is doing very well. I want to thank the Rebbeinu Shalom because it's, of course, all his work, and I want to thank all of you who are helping this along. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And if you want to share the link with your friends, that would also be much appreciated. Parshas Pekudei. So the Parsha. Okay. Pasuk says like this: Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur lemat Yehuda also es kol asher tziva Hashem es Moshe. He did everything that the Rebbeinu Shalom told Moshe to do. So Rashi has a question. Why does it say what Hashem told Moshe? He should say what Moshe told him. Of course, Moshe heard from Hashem, but he should say kol asher tziva Moshe. Moshe was the one that spoke to Betzalel. So Rashi says like this: Asher tziva Moshe en ksev kan. It doesn't say what Moshe told him. Al kol asher tziva Hashem es Moshe. Afilu dvarim shlei amalei rabbi, even things that Moshe did not tell him. Hiskimoi daitoi lemash nemer leMoshe b'Sinai. He through his intellect, he understood what the Rebbeinu Shalom told Moshe. Now Rashi is based on a Gemara, and instead of going through the whole Rashi, we'll do the Gemara, because the Gemara is a little bit more detailed than what Rashi says. So the Gemara says like this. This is the Gemara in Brachas Daf Nun Hey. Omer Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, Omer Rav Yonasan. Betzalel Hashem chachmasai nikra. Betzalel is called Betzalel because of his great chachma, because his wisdom, he was able to figure out things. B'shah she'amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe leich emarlei leBetzalel asei li mishkan aron v'kelim. The Rebbeinu Shalom told Moshe, tell Betzalel to make the mishkan, the aron, and the kelim. That's what he said. The mishkan, then the aron, then the kelim. Where did he say this? Rashi and Tosfos both say. He says it in Parshas Kisisa. Rei Karosi b'Shem Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur, and Vani Nasati Itay es Eliyav, and all the chacham Lev. Also, as Kol Asher Tzivisicha, they should do everything that I'm commanding you. As oil moyed, that's the mishkan, the building. Ves orain leedus, ves kapayres, ves kol klei oil. So first he says the mishkan, and then he says the kelim. So the Rebbeinu Shalom told Moshe, told him, aseli mishkan, oren v'kelim. First the mishkan, then the oren v'kelim. Holach Moshe v'hipach. Moshe went and he reversed it. The Amalai, he told the Betzalel, I say Orain v'Kelim and Mishkan. First do the Kelim and then do the Mishkan. He switched it. Amar Loi, so Betzalel told Moshe, Moshe Rabbeinu, Minhagoi shel Olam, the custom of the world, Adam boine bayis v'achagach machas l'toche Kelim. A person builds a house and then he puts in the Kelim. V'ata omer aseli Orain v'Kelim u'Mishkan. You're telling me to make first the Kelim and then the Mishkan. Kelim shani oise lehecha nachnisam. Where am I going to put them? The kelim I'm going to make, where am I going to put them? The minhag of the world is you make a house, and then you make kelim, then you bring the kelim into the house. You're telling me I should make the kelim first. Where am I going to put them? Shema chacham l'cha Kodesh Baruch Hu. Maybe what the Rebbeinu Shalom really told you was, I say Mishkan, Aron, v'kelim. First the Mishkan, then the Aron, then the kelim. Like the minhag of the world. Amar Loi, so Moshe said to him, Shema b'tzel kela yisa. Maybe you were standing over there in the shadows while the Rebbeinu Shalom was talking to me. You were actually standing there and you heard him. V'yodata, that you knew what the Rebbeinu Shalom told me. In other words, with your chachma, it's as if you were a fly on the wall and you were able to hear what the Rebbeinu Shalom said to me, even though you were not there, but with your chachma you figured this out. What was your chachma? The minhag of the world is first make a house and then you make the kelim. So there are numerous questions here. First of all, what was the gewaldige chachma that he said? What was his chachma? He said the minhag is that people they make houses, then they put in kelim, and so that was the chachma. That was so wise. And what is this argument of minhag ha'olam? Since when is the Rebbeinu Shalom obligated to follow the minhag ha'olam? Everything Moshe tells Betzalel, he's telling the Piyad Dibur, this is what the Rebbeinu Shalom told me to do. Don't say, Moshe told everybody everything the Rebbeinu Shalom said. Don't second guess Moshe. Moshe is telling you the Piyad Dibur. So Moshe told you something, why don't you accept it? No, you don't want to accept it. Why? Because it doesn't fit the custom of the world. The Rebbeinu Shalom can say you should do it a different way. So what was his problem? Told me to make kelim. Where am I going to put them? So in other words, he had a storage problem. You're going to make a menorah. Where are you going to put the menorah? So really, I need to make the Mishkan first, so I can put it in the Mishkan. But the pasuk says. Pasuk says when they came to Vayaviu es a Mishkan al Moshe. So after they finished making all these things, so they followed Betzalel's order. First they did the chacham, then they did the kelim and everything. Vayaviu es a Mishkan al Moshe. They brought it to Moshe as a oil, as kelov, krosov, kroshov, berichov, Amudov, Adonov, they brought all the pieces to Moshe. Apparently they didn't have a problem of storage. It doesn't say Moshe, only later Moshe erected the Mishkan. But before he erected the Mishkan, all the pieces came already. He had all the pieces in front of him. So what was the problem? Apparently they had some place to store them. They probably had. They put it in a tent somewhere. Or they had a place to store them. So what is he saying? If I'm going to make the kelim, I won't have where to put them. It seems to be saying that I have to put up the Mishkan first, so I can put them in the Mishkan. He didn't put up the Mishkan first. He just made the pieces of the Mishkan, and then he brought the pieces of the Mishkan and the kelim and everything to Moshe. So what is he saying? Also, at the end of the parsha it says, at the end of Yaakov. So he made first he made the Mishkan because the house comes first. Then he made the kelim, and at the end, after he made all the kelim, he says, he made the chotzer and he made the mechitza of the chotzer. So I would think that a person who is building a house with a chotzer, with a fence, so first he'll make the house, and he'll make the fence around the chotzer, and then he'll bring in the kelim. How come the fence around the chotzer was able to wait till the end? Why isn't that the same thing? The derech of the olam probably is a person builds a house and he says he has a garden and he has a fence around the garden and he finishes the construction of his home. That means the house and the garden. And then he brings in the kalim. How come he made the kloim at the end? He should have made the kloim before he made the kalim. He brought in the mizbeach into the chotzer. So he made the mizbeach first, and then he made the kloim. So if a person is going to put out furniture in his garden, in his yard, he'll make a fence, and then he'll put out his good furniture. Here he went and he made the mizbeach first, and then he made the kloim around the chotzer. So what was he doing? So we have to understand also, why did Moshe change? The Rebbeinu Shalom told him a mishkan, and then the Aron, and then the Kalim. And Moshe reversed the order. Why did he reverse the order? So I think the Pashto Pshat is, because if you look in Parshas Truma, when the Rebbeinu Shalom told him the tzivui to make the Kalim and to make the Kroshim, first he said the Kalim, and then he said the Kroshim. In Truma, it starts. You have to make an Aron, you have to make a Shulchan, you have to make a Menorah, you have to make, and then it goes into making the Kroshim and making all the yiras and everything that comes after the Kalim. So Moshe understood, and that's the order. That's what he was told. So when the Rebbeinu Shalom said it's a Mishkan, it's a oil moyed, it's a Aron Ves Kelev, Moshe Rabbeinu understood that this is lav dafka. This is the order, because he was already told the order in Pashas Truma. So he went and says, okay, I'm going to follow the order that I was told. The tzivuyim were first the Kalim and then the Mishkan. So fine, that's what I'm going to tell Betzalel to do. So Betzalel says, no, the minhag of the world is first to build the house. So what does he do with Pashas Truma, Betzalel? How did he learn Pashas Truma? All the tzivuyim were given in the order that Moshe said. So how does he account for that? How does he explain that? Okay. So these are like very many questions, and could be there many more questions, but this is, I'm sure there are. So I want to say like this. The Mishkan and the Kalim, there were two dinim in the Mishkan and the Kalim. They served two functions. One, they were a place for Hashras HaShechina. This was a place where the Shechina came down and rested among Klal Yisrael. That was the Mishkan. There also, and the Kalim were there. The Mishkan had needed Kalim. I mean, I guess it shouldn't be empty, so it should be inside. It should be nice. But that was the Makom Hashras HaShechina. It also had a function that it was a place where the Avodah was done. It was a Makom Avodah. The Avodah was done on the Mizbeach, on the Kalim. This is the Avodah. And the Oil Moed was the place where the Avodah was done. So it was two things. It was a place for Hashras HaShechina, and it was a place where the Avodah was done. So now we have to consider, in Barcelona, there's a museum called the Picasso Museum. I actually saw it. Now, I'm mentioning this museum, not the Metropolitan Museum of Art, because could be the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They decided to make a museum of art, and they went out to look for art. Okay, could be. But the Picasso Museum, if there's no Picasso, there's no museum. They didn't make the museum and then have Picasso make the art. First, Picasso made all his paintings and everything, and they didn't make a museum where you put it. That was one thing. Now, on the other hand, when a person needs a place to live, so he needs a bed to sleep on, he needs a table to eat on, and he needs to live somewhere. So the first thing is the house. The first thing is the house. If your bed and your table are in the street, and it rains on you, and it's cold, and it's windy, what's the good of that bed? It's nothing. It's useless. The main thing is you have to have a house. If you have a house, you could sleep on the floor, you could eat on the floor, but the house is where you live. You live in this house. the bed and the table, yeah, that's good. You bring it in, and so you have to have a house where you put the bed and the table. Outside of the street, it's not good. So, in Truma, when the kalim, the way they were made, the function, everything, that related to the avodah. It didn't relate to Hashras HaShechina. Hashras HaShechina did not need the kalim. The kalim were nice. They were kalim. They came in. They were very nice for the covet of the Oil Mayid where the Shechina was. But all the details that were given in Parshas Truma, how to make a shulchan and the lechem and what do you do with the menorah and these kalim and the mizbeach and the mizlogos and everything, all that is for avodah. All that is for the avodah. So as far as the avodah is concerned, the kalim are the ikar. The kalim are the ikar. The place where you put the kalim is the museum, but the kalim are the ikar. So first we have a tzivui on the orain, then we have a tzivui on the shulchan, then we have a tzivui on the menorah, and the building comes last, because first the main thing is the kalim. So that's what Moshe understood, that I should follow that order. So Betzalel told him, he said, K'minhaga shel olam, that when you have place where you're going to live, what's more important is the house than the kalim, because you could have a table and you could have a bed, and if in the street, what good is it? You have to have a place where to put it, which tells you that the building, when it comes to where you live, your domain, where you are, it's the house, it's the building. That's what it is. The kalim are the kalim. So the kalim, if you put them outside, they're useless. The main thing is when you're living, having the kalim outside, that doesn't mean you're living there. You can't live on a bed in the middle of the street. You have to have the bed in the house. If I don't have a house, where am I going to put the kalim? That's what he said. Which points out to you that the main thing is the house. A house without kalim is a home. Kalim in the street is not a home. That's what he's saying. So you're in Truma. What that Seder that you saw in Truma, that was a Seder of the kalim which are related to the avodah. But what's more important? Is it the avodah or is it the Hashras HaShechina? He said Hashras HaShechina is more important. You could have Hashras HaShechina without the kalim, but you can't have avodah without Hashras HaShechina. You have two things going on. You have the avodah, there's no Hashras HaShechina, there's no avodah. But if you have Hashras HaShechina, you can have Hashras HaShechina without the avodah. So the main thing is the Hashras HaShechina. So when it comes to Hashras HaShechina, the Mishkan is first. The Shechina is Shoira in the building, in the Mishkan. The Mishkan is Kaveh D'Makam. The kalim are really not critical for it. The Gemara says, Ish ve'isha shchina beinayim. Ish ve'isha, there's nothing, you have a place, and you have a place, the shchina is shared in that place. So we have a mishkan, the shchina is shared that mishkan. We're going to adorn it, because we're going to take the claim, the avodah, we're going to bring it into the mishkan, it's going to be nicer, but that's not the ikar. The ikar is the mishkan, not the kalim. So when it comes to making it, when it comes to the tzivuyim, and you're going into all the details of what to do, then those are really related to the avodah. So the kalim are first, but when I'm actually making it, I'd rather have to make the mishkan first. That was the chachma of Betzalel. He understood that Hashras HaShechina and the avodah separated from each other. They came together in the Mishkan, but they were two separate inyanim, and the Hashras HaShechina is more important than the kalim, so therefore the Mishkan has to come first. That's what he told him, he said. So Moshe was moided to him. He said, you're right, that's exactly what the Rebbeinu Shalom says. It's as if you were standing and you figured it out. You were mechavan to what the Rebbeinu Shalom said. Taka, you're right. And Mamela Moshe Rabbeinu was masking them. So, when it comes to the kloyim are not necessary for the Hashras HaShechina. The Shechina is shayra in the Mishkan. The kloyim are there for the chotzer. The kloyim are there for the chotzer, for the mizbeach. So what's more important, the mizbeach or the kloyim? that's only negated to the avodah. The mizbeach is more essential to the avodah than the kohen. The kohen themselves are nothing. They're just there to create a mechitza around the mizbeach. So first you make the mizbeach, and then you make the kohen. So, but that's not Ashur Hashchina. Has nothing to do with the kohen. The kohen are there for the avodah, to put a mechitza around the chotzer. Okay, now it says in the pasuk later, Vayikach vayitens eidos al ha'aron. This is when he was assembling all the kalim and putting them, being mesaderit. So first, he took the eidos, he put the luchas into the aron. V'yosem misabadim al ha'aron. He put the badim on the aron. Vayitens kapoiris al ha'aron milamala. He put the kapoiris on top. So he put the badim first. In the order of things, he did the badim before, by the other ones, it doesn't even mention badim because the badim were just there to carry it. But by the aron, the badim had to be permanent. So he mentions the badim. So I think this pasuk supports what we spoke about in Parshas Truma, why you cannot take the badim out of the aron. So I wanted to say, because the Gemara says that the kohen brings in the ketores to the Kodesh Kadoshim on Yom Kippur, and is makdir bein abadim. So the bein abadim is part of the aron; it's a makam. So therefore, you cannot take it apart and be mevatel that part. Whereas in the other kalim, the badim are only to carry it. So since it's part of the aron, so therefore in the pasuk when you're putting it together, first you do the aron, then you do badim, which is also part of the aron, and then you put the kapairas on top. Okay, I just want to conclude with a thought which actually not directly related to Pekudei, but it's something which people talk about. And this Shabbos was Shabbos Mevarchim. So on Shabbos Mevarchim you say Yiratzen, that Shetchadesh Shalom Zachodesh Hazel Tov Levracha V'sitem Lanu Chayim Aruchim, and then you say like this: Chayim sheyesh bem yiras shamayim v'yiras chet. You say Chaim sheyesh bem a life of yiras shamayim and yiras chet. Chaim she'en bem busha chlima. Chaim shalosh v'chavod. Chaim she'en no avas Torah v'yiras shamayim. So you say yiras shamayim again. So why do you say yiras shamayim again? You said yiras shamayim before already. And what happened to yiras chet? Why don't we mention yiras chet again? Before we said yiras chet and yiras shamayim, and now we're only repeating yiras shamayim. So the Welt says that it's not serious. The Welt says that if you say Chaim Shalosh V'Chavod, when you get Oisher, then you need a new bracha for yiras shamayim, because Oisher presents you with many challenges. So you need a new bracha for yiras shamayim. But it's not serious. It's just a vertel that people say. So I wanted to say pshat in this, very pashut. The second time you say Chaim Shtebon Avas Torah Yiras Shamayim, it doesn't mean two things, Avas Torah and Yiras Shamayim. It's one thing, Avas Torah Yiras Shamayim. Not only should we have Yiras Shamayim, we should love having Yiras Shamayim. We should love to have to stand in awe of the Rabbeinu Shalom. We should love that. So love of yiras shamayim is only on yiras roimamus. There's no love of yiras chet. I mean, we have yiras chet. We do a chet, we get punished. You don't love that. It's just a feeling. But yiras shamayim means that you're in awe of the Rabbeinu Shalom, which creates a fear in a person, which we'll explain at a different time why it creates a fear. But that feeling of overwhelming awe, you should love having that. That's what he's saying over here. Okay, so Baruch Hashem, we've concluded another sefer, concluded Parshas the Sefer Shemais, and I'd like to thank, of course, Rabbi Yaakov Sofer, who is the one that he's my partner. It's him, and I also want to thank Leza Hassenfeld from the Lakewood Scoop, and Yitzi Hiziger from Matzav and Torah Anytime, that they post these videos, and Baruch Hashem, several hundred people watch that every week, and it's I hope they enjoy it half as much as I do. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you again next week. We'll start Sefer Yikra, Be'ezras Hashem.